Hi everyone, I thought it was about time I did a video about radios, but I think I'm the only human on the planet who really hates unboxing videos, and I started to make one on the new Retrovis RT82 that turned up the other day, but I soon scrapped that idea. Probably a very good move. Okay, instruction book. If you need that, the radio is too hard to work. Protect against powerful water jets. Yeah, fine. And what we got? Programming cable, handy. And inside the box, yeah, a radio, charger, small aerial, ordinary looking. The charger itself in a box, belt clip, and a carrying strap. Not that anybody ever sticks those on, I'm sure. Right, that's it, done. I've put that video to one side because just recently I'm noticing an awful lot of posts on internet forums where the cheap Chinese radios get universally slagged off, and while some of the information presented is accurate, lots really isn't. What I've done is get together a collection of radios and compared them. I've decided to concentrate on dual band hand portables, as these are the types of radio new hams often choose as a starter radio. This is not going to be an ultra technical review. I'm simply concerned with the important things like how easy they are to work, what the gadgets are, the weight and size, and practical things like how easy the battery packs are to put on. During the testing, one thing was quite clear. There are differences in the performances of the radios, but perhaps not quite what you expect. I needed something solid to use as a comparison, so I picked this. The ICOM IC32 dual bander I bought in the 80s. It still works, and despite being the size and weight of a house brick, it's still a decent radio and totally reliable. It's eaten through a few battery packs over the years, but amazingly these are still available. This certainly won't be the case with the cheaper Chinese radios. One very important thing is price. This radio took me 2 years to pay off when I bought it, and the equivalent price if you convert to 2017 prices would be £800, over $1,000. We're comparing it to 3 radios that cost £25 or less, $32. We're going to look at 3 models, all made by Baofeng. The most popular, the UV5R, which also appears under the Baofeng brand, which really amounts to new stickers on the case, the very small UV-B2, and the third radio, the UV-82. I've seen lots of stories about these radios being low on sensitivity, essentially deaf. So what I've done is find a local transmission. It works 24/7, and here on the ICOM manages about half scale on the meter as it sits on the bench. In audio terms, there's a bit of hiss, but it's perfectly readable. Putting this frequency into all the radios surprisingly produced virtually identical results. However, this is also where the first problem reared its head. One radio, the UV-B2, picks up things it shouldn't. When an engineer designs a radio receiver, there are 2 often competing requirements. The first is sensitivity. How good is the radio at taking the RF energy captured by the antenna and boosting it to a strong enough level to be turned back into speech? If the radio is not sensitive enough, then the distance it can work is reduced. That repeater you want to use just can't be heard. The other feature of a good radio is the ability to select what you want to hear and reject what you don't, often called selectivity. This usually means some clever design work to limit what gets into the preamp before it gets amplified, and then careful control of it once in the radio. In dual band radios, one antenna has to be split to the VHF and UHF tuners, so you cannot just slice off the incoming stream of RF at a certain frequency, which in a single band radio is quite easy. I get the impression the Baofengs are not at all advanced in these areas. The UV-82 and the UV5R are not too bad, but the UV-B2Plus is pretty poor. Here on the East Coast, I have just half a mile away a tower carrying some data links and pager signals, and they're so strong here that an antenna isn't needed to hear them. These are in the 163 MHz band. Using my reference signal on 164 MHz, the UV-B2 suffers pretty bad breakthrough from the unwanted signals just 1 meg away. If you live away from this kind of transmitter, this radio works fine, but in the presence of very strong local signals, it's less than ideal. Okay, What exactly are the differences? Baofeng, and to be honest, lots of Chinese manufacturers use something very similar. In case you've not tried one of these, the radios have all their functions, and there are plenty, accessed by a scrolling system in a menu. You can set the power, the frequency step, any access tones you need, repeater offsets, and dozens of other settings. This is a good way to program these features, but it involves considerable button pushing. This is the reason why every sensible person programs these radios with computer software. Sorry to jump around, but this subject might perhaps be new to many people and is not as simple as it should be. All the radios now are programmed with a cable that has a plug for the radio on one end, and in the case of these Baofengs it is the 2-pin type, the one with one larger pin and the other slightly smaller, and at the other end of the cable is a larger than usual USB connector. This is the cause of so much grief. Bit of history first. Older computers had what was called a serial interface. The data went in and out on a multi-pin D-size connector. Then USB came along and was very popular, and one chip manufacturer, Prolific, designed a chip to convert the serial data into something that could be sent via the newfangled USB connections. All you needed was a driver to tell your computer how to manage the conversion, and it worked. Prolific let people use their chip in a licensing deal, and all was good. Then the Chinese manufacturers borrowed the Prolific chip design and built these into the cables they manufacture. This was fine until Windows moved on a bit. From Windows 7 onwards, Microsoft started letting Windows check for updated drivers, and the fake Prolific chips need the old drivers. Old as in nearly 15 years ago. Windows sees this ancient driver and replaces it with the latest one, which doesn't work. You can reinstall the old one, of course, but on my systems, even if you tell Windows not to update things, it still does. The solution is to have a spare computer for your programming, and mine runs Windows XP, and I have a laptop running Vista that does the job just fine. This sounds okay, but the new Retivis RT82 I just bought will not run on XP, which is odd as the TYT MD3800 will. Anyway, that's for another video. All three of these Baofengs can happily be programmed from the computer screen, and that's by far the best way to do it. So we have three usefully sensitive radios, one with a slight overloading problem, but they're all extremely good value, and let's face it, all the other slightly annoying things are pretty trivial. The B2Plus has uneven feet and often falls forward if you stand it up. The UV-82 has a slightly different keypad, adding a star and a hash key, but needing the menu for other things instead of buttons. The battery life on these is all pretty reasonable, but the UV5R I have has the extra large battery pack. It adds a couple of inches to the height and a little more weight, but lets you use high power all day long with no flat battery. Heavy use will flatten the other two if you're not careful, as they're 1800 mAh types. The big battery pack is double that. It's pretty handy. All three are very different battery pack designs. The UV5 with the extra height battery needs a very firm push to get it to latch, but once attached is completely rigid. The UV-82 battery slides on and releases with two buttons, one each side, which are squeezed inwards. The B2Plus pack slides on and has a button at the bottom that needs pressing with your nail to release it. All three have wall wart power supplies and drop-in cradle style chargers. Nothing much to report in that department apart from the usual stiffness getting the slots to align and make proper contact. All of them can easily be dropped into the charger misaligned, and then of course they won't charge. What else? FM radio reception, which works. A torch, which is about as good as a typical phone. Audio on all of them should be considered a little lightweight. It's not really tinny, just a bit thin sounding and not that loud. The Icon by comparison is much more mellow sounding and very loud. Construction is a metal chassis, but the plastics on the UV5 and the UV-82 are quite brittle. The B2Plus is a genuine shirt pocket radio and actually quite tough. Are these, as often said on the internet, rubbish radios? No. They offer exceptional value for money, but they won't be with you for very long. The best way to describe them is as a disposable radio. If they break or go faulty, then throw them away. And if you liked how they work for you, buy another. The reality is you can spend this much on a takeout meal or a visit to McDonald's. So why they constantly get slagged off is a mystery to me. They're pocket money radios. If you buy them from a dealer with a guarantee for a little more money, you'll get at least a year out of them. If you buy direct from China, then you're on your own. But does it really matter? Most of the radios I used to hire out to my business customers used to be Icons. They're Motorola's and now Kenwoods. They cost 10 times the price of these radios. I do give these radios out to a couple of my clients because I know they won't come back, or if they do, they'll be in a terrible state. But when a radio is going to fall out the back of a 4x4 in a forest or drop out of somebody's pocket doing some crazy activity, these Baofengs do have a place. For an amateur with a zero budget, they're okay as a first radio. After all, to use the local repeater, you don't need many facilities. Do they deserve their terrible reputation? Absolutely not. They're cheap, they are prone to going wrong and not really a quality product, but at the price, does this matter? There you go, there's the roundup of the 3 cheap Baofeng radios. Draw your own conclusions from that. See you soon.